In the 12th chapter of the second book of Samuel, the scriptures tell us of one of David's deepest sorrows. Before Solomon was born, David had another son, a child struck by illness. Day after day, David fasted and prayed, pouring out his heart to God. But as the days passed, he saw his son's strength fading, his life slipping away. Grief swallowed David whole. He ate nothing. He refused the comfort of a bed, choosing instead the cold ground. His nights were sleepless, his mind restless. Worry, hunger, and exhaustion wore him down until he was but a shadow of himself. Still, he clung to one desperate hope, that his son might be healed. But on the 7th day, the child died. The servants whispered among themselves, afraid to deliver the news. If he was so broken while the boy was sick, they said, what will become of him when he hears his son is gone? David noticed their silence, their troubled glances. He read the truth in their eyes before they spoke. His voice, heavy with dread, broke the silence. Has my son died? And though their lips hesitated, their nods told him everything. But what happened next took everyone by surprise. The grieving father did not collapse under the weight of sorrow. Instead, he rose. He washed his face, bathed, anointed himself with perfume, changed into clean garments, and walked back to his house. There, he prayed. And when he finished, he asked for food. The servants were bewildered. Their astonishment turned into confusion, and at last they spoke, My lord, how can this be? While your son was sick, you fasted, you wept, you would not eat. Yet now that he has died, you rise and ask for bread. David answered them with calmness, almost with peace. While my son still lived, I wept, for perhaps the Lord might spare him. But now, I know he will not return to me. Instead, I will go to him one day. So why remain in grief? And in this reply lies a profound truth. When the child died, David was not crushed by despair. Paradoxically, he was freed from the torment of hope that had kept him bound to uncertainty, sleepless nights, and endless anguish. With the finality of death, sorrow itself loosened its grip. And so, he returned to life's rhythm. This is why Spinoza, in his Ethics, did not count hope among the sad passions, and it is why Nietzsche warned, the Greeks considered hope the worst of evils, cunning, deceitful, left at the bottom of Pandora's jar. Even in everyday life, we see this truth. A heartbroken woman finds release from her grief at the very moment she lets go of false hope. For as long as hope deceives, sorrow lingers, and when hope dies, strangely enough, the soul finds rest. So, we ask, are not all hopes, in one way or another, fragile illusions? Beautiful, perhaps, but dangerous when they fail to meet reality. In the first walk of the Reveries of the Solitary Walker, Rousseau makes a startling observation. He says, the one who persecutes you, who leaves you no glimmer of hope, is not your destroyer, but the very one who grants you an unexpected strength. Why? Because he frees you, not from pain, but from fear. More precisely, from that anxious waiting, from the trembling uncertainty that hope always carries with it. When hope is cut off, a strange liberation appears, the necessity to turn the page and begin again. This insight helps us understand why psychoanalysis sometimes takes a path that may seem merciless. The goal is not to reawaken hope in the hopeless. No, it is to push despair to its very edge until it breaks open into healing. Think of those moments of denial when someone loses a loved one through death, divorce, or abandonment. The therapist does not conspire with denial. Instead, he leads the grieving person to a moment of despair, where the loss is faced fully, and in that raw acknowledgement, the possibility of life returns. Common sense also knows this truth. We know there are moments when tears must be encouraged, not silenced. Tears that empty the heart. Tears that force us to face the irreversible. In this deep, desperate release, a door back to normal life slowly opens. I have seen families of kidnapped or missing children who never let go, because hope never let them go. As long as no fate is known, grief endures like an open wound. This is why, in so many traditions, the viewing of the body is not only for identification, it is for the living, so that hope may be buried with the dead, and the soul spared years of fruitless searching. But here is the paradox. The greater the hope, the greater the despair it breeds. Sometimes hope swells to such proportions that it devours everything, and the so-called great deliverances, those final salvations, are always painted in the colors of great hope, the return of the Mahdi, the return of Christ, the coming of the communist society, all vast horizons of tomorrow, drawing men forward until they collapse as orphans of their own hope, left only with the cry for a Superman to save them. Hope, then, is a force that gathers and polarizes, but carried too far, it becomes delusion, and delusion, sooner or later, breeds violence. Listen to the chants of history. Tomorrow, the revolution. Tomorrow, salvation. Tomorrow, Islam. But is it not these very hopes, these burning promises of tomorrow, that set fire to our present? Perhaps what we need is not great hopes, but smaller ones. Hopes that do not promise certainty. Hopes that live without illusions. Hopes without hope.